Acton, 67 from Agua Dulce, and 27 from other communities. 6 responses were disqualified for lack of adequate verification information. Basically, we need names and addresses to verify that they're within the communities that this would affect. So with that said, 285 voted no, 12 voted yes. Of the 67 Agua Dulce respondents, 65 voted no, and 2 voted yes. I think that shows a majority vote. On top of that, there was 19 additional responses that came in after the paper had been printed. There was 3 yeses and 16 noes. All of this information can be verified at the paper's office if they'd like to see the box of things that came in, verified addresses and such. But that's pretty much where that survey comes in, which lets us know how those people are feeling. With that said, I'd like to let Mr. and Mrs. Spooner, whoever's going to do the speaking tonight, they come up to the podium up here. We'll have to speak loud. And we just ask that with the, there is no speaker system in here or PA system, so if we can all just keep it to a nice and quiet, just like it is now, we can hear the presentation, and then we're going to go open forward to the rest of the group.
How was everyone this evening?
Good.
Good. I just wanted to go back actually and discuss with everyone here kind of the stimulus actually that drove my wife and I to have the idea to bring the dispensary to the Acton Agua Dulce area. It was the very observation that was made in many of your letters. That was of the problems that existed with the dispensaries in our area. Can you hear me okay in the back?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Barely.
You can. I can strain those. Barely.
At any rate, we were kind of drawn to the dispensaries in the area, that they were substandard and dangerous. And, you know, we believe that people that need medical marijuana should have the opportunity to access it safely. That they shouldn't have to be submitted to an environment where they feel unsafe. It's not the type of place that you want to send your caregiver or for the loved one that you have that's infirmed to one of those locations. So our idea was to try to bring a safe and well-managed facility to this area so that people had access without being nervous that they were going to suffer bodily injury trying to get their medicine. So that was kind of how we started.
Test. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's how we started. That was how this idea came to us, and that's why we brought this idea originally to the town council maybe 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. And I'd like to thank actually the town council and Lillian as well, because they have been, from the very beginning of this process, very unbiased and professional. And they've been serving the community very well in just allowing us a forum to bring what we wanted to do to the community, and allowing the community to have a voice in our idea. And from the very beginning, I would say that their demeanor has been professional and very refreshing, and I appreciate that. Without their help, this would have been impossible. I hope that you understand that what all we really wanted to do was find out if this was something that the community wanted. I just clearly don't. I'm proud to be a member of this community. I'm proud to be a member of Acton Agua Dulce community. And I'm more proud today than I was last week. Because to see this large group of people come out and on not the most beautiful day and express their opinion on issues in their community, that really makes me feel good about the community that I live in. It also makes me very optimistic for the future of the community, because there's a lot of things on the horizon that are coming up that endanger some things that we take for granted in this community, like high-speed rail and water meters maybe coming up. And if we can all get together like this for this issue, we can certainly get together on other issues. So I was also very impressed with the demeanor of the community. Although I didn't agree with everything, with every letter that was said, and certainly most people here didn't agree with what we brought to the table, everyone that wrote a letter and that we communicated with were kind, sympathetic, and polite, and expressed their opinion in a positive way. And I want you to know that my wife and I appreciated that as well. I mean, people have very vehement opinions on this topic, but they expressed it with great aptitude and sensitivity, and I appreciate that. I think that it's a little bit unfortunate that people in our community are going to be denied safe access to their medicine. But I think at the same time, obviously, the community has spoken. And from the very beginning, once again, my wife and my desire was to try to find out exactly how the community felt about this topic. And thanks again for all the help in doing that. You couldn't have done it, in my mind, any better, because you never really denied us this open forum, and with Lillian's help with the journal, really put us in a position where we could find out how everyone felt. And I think now we do. So, thank you.
Does this mean the topic's squashed? You guys are...
Yeah, I mean, there's no, you don't open a business in a community that is absolutely against you. I think it's important for the people that need access to medicinal marijuana, and I think that ultimately this is a challenge that's going on nationwide. Everyone in this room knows this is a nationwide challenge. There's a lot of states where it's 100%, there's a few states where it's 100% legal, as legal as alcohol, basically. And then there are other states where it's legal medicinally, and those numbers are growing. I think that the amount of support that we received from people that needed or the need medicinal marijuana was also very heart-wrenching, because they're some of the few unfortunate ones that need safe access to it and that desire safe access to it. And that's really all we wanted to bring to the table. The last thing we were trying to do was, as some of the comments were, put it in the hands of children. Anyone that knows me and my wife knows that's absolutely preposterous. We wanted to bring a high-security facility that was well-run, state-of-the-art. That was something totally different than anything that you see in these other communities. So it was a little bit difficult, because I think that the image maybe that we're stuck with in this community is the image that you see in neighboring communities, of what you would have in this community. And I really tried to hammer home the idea that that's not what you would be seeing from our dispensary. But that being said, we are going to withdraw the idea of having a dispensary. That was really.
Stop talking.
Yeah, and absolutely, you can ask a question, and then I'd like to answer any questions. I mean, it's pretty much.
No, stop talking.
I just want to clarify, because I understood you had not yet submitted permit application or anything with the plan, so just to clarify, you will not be submitting anything in the future. Are both of those statements true?
Yeah, we will not submit anything in the future for this region, Yeah. And that's why we didn't submit first. You know, in a normal business, you would submit, and then you would discuss these things. But we felt that it was far more important, as we discussed in the very first meeting, we felt it was far more important to really get the pulse and the opinion of everybody involved. Because the last thing we wanted was for anyone to feel like we were trying to cram this down their throat, because that was absolutely, and I hope that in our candor and the way that we came forward with this proposal, that's understood.
Now, have you considered lobbying the state to change the way they deal with medical marijuana? I mean, speaking for myself, and maybe a lot of people have a feeling that the state handles this horribly. It's not handled like other medicines. You don't go to your pharmacy. And maybe you should put some of your efforts there. I mean, because I think a lot of people are very compassionate for the people who do benefit from this. But the state has just made a disaster of it. And I think a lot of people who don't want it here is really just because of the way it's implemented. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to put some efforts there.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. That's that one of the problems with it is the implementation. And so if you wait for the state to do it right, you're going to have to wait a long time.
I disagree though, because it's not the state. It's the people that see it being an enormous cash cow and that have just burgeoned it out of control. So I think it's just people that see this enormous amount of money and want to take advantage of loopholes in what's existing now. So I really don't think it's.
Well, if it was managed like we manage other pharmaceuticals, there would not be that opportunity.
Okay, so the 7 people between Acton and Agua Dulce that need their medical marijuana, somehow someone would be able to get it. Maybe you can think of some how to get it to them. They're passionate about it.
I wasn't really looking at about 8, but more of a suggestion.
No, and I appreciate all I think it's a valid suggestion, and I certainly appreciate your feeling as well about the industry. And that, I think that's something that has to change about the industry. And that's one of the very things that, as I said in the beginning, we saw this firsthand, as have you. And so we were looking to do it in a totally different way. And yes, a question in the back.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Number one, when it's April 20th, the pot shop, do their revenues go up, since that's the National High School recognized day of smoking pot? If you parents don't know, 4/20 is the big day that your kids all go out and get stoned. And then number 2, in your your top of the line facility, how does that stop any kid from hitting up the people going to your store saying, hey, can you score us some weed at the pot store? How does that stop? Because that's what kids are doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, actually, and that's a very big problem. You're absolutely right, that's a very big problem with the dispensaries. And that's one of the things that we found so undesirable about the way that it's being handled now. So in our proposal, we were going to have a fence. I mean, At this point,
That'll help.
but in our proposal, we were going to have a fence around the entire facility, and the only way to access the facility was to have your card, your medicinal card, to get even in the gate.
Or climb over.
So it's not like a normal facility where they would have a guard only inside. There was also going to be a guard on the outside, because that is one of the largest concerns, is trying to make sure that you don't allow people inside the facility that are there for the wrong reasons.
You would still have no control over the adult clients that might want you to come into your facility, the people coming off of 14. The adults, you would have no control. If someone came in and, you know, some person that we really don't want around Acton,
Well, it's a collective. So in order for someone to gain access to the building, they have to already be a member. It's not the type of thing where you're an adult and you're driving down the freeway and you're like, oh, I want to go in. And so you just pull off and get some pot. That's not the way it works. You have to have a recommendation from your physician. And you have to go, well, they don't write prescriptions. That's why. So you have a recommendation from your doctor. That recommendation has to already
from a doctor. Most doctors don't give the recommendation.
from a doctor, a PhD, someone that went to school. Same thing. And then you have to be a member of the collective as well. So it's not the type of thing where, oh, I want a milkshake, I'm just going to stop here and get one. It's a little more complicated. So when we, in the inception of this idea, when we talked about freeway access, it was only for the convenience of the members of the collective. It was not with the intention of trying to pull people off the freeway. It was only with the intention of having easy, safe access for the members of the collective.
But you would choose those people in your collective. And the more people that join your collective, the more profits that you.
Well, it's a not-for-profit organization. It's not a profit.
Oh, come on. Really? Come on.
With the state.
Okay, you're done. Come on, get out. He's done. Let's get on with it.
I mean, I think we're going down this road together, and so this doesn't need to be like this. It just doesn't. I mean, we asked you right up front. You've made your point very clear, and so I'm happy to stand here and answer your questions. But please don't, because I don't need to.
Then you're wasting time.
Right? I don't need to. So,
Stop.
Let's just keep it like we're all. Yes. Yes, every state is different. Some states obviously are full federally.
No, he's wasting a bunch of time.
Yes.
Excuse me one second. I just want to say a lot of people are leaving right now, and I appreciate everyone for coming. They understand we won the battle here, and someone that does want to leave can, and the rest can stay for the rest of the meeting that we're going to have. I'm going to give Mr. Spooner about 5 more minutes, and then we've got to move on with the rest of our meeting.
Sorry. Yes. Let me just ask you a question. Yeah. Well, there's actually, just so you know, actually, there's different batches that are being read with different levels of literacy and trying to accomplish exactly what we're talking about. But currently, it's a work in progress. Yes,
I'm just curious, if it's a collective, can you say, no, we're not going to take you on with the members?
absolutely.
So you can pick and choose.
Absolutely. Yes.
I would just call it collective, what is it, call it what it is?
What is it?
Marijuana dispensary.
Well, it's just, it is a marijuana dispensary, but you have to be a member of the collective.
I don't like the name, farmer's dog, it makes it sound like it's the vegetable garden.
Well, yeah, I guess we're, you know, I think that that's, I mean, what's right? So I'm not, we're not trying, when you name the farmer's dog, we weren't trying to mislead them. I have nothing to do.
All right, one more question.
Yes, let's go in the back.
You know, it's not really a question, I just want to say a statement. As many people maybe in law enforcement here, I was tasked with going into a doctor's office and getting a medical marijuana card. All it took for me was to say I couldn't sleep. 20 minutes, pay $20, and I have my prescription. It was only for work purposes because, you know, I don't use that stuff, but, you know, it just shows you how big the loopholes are. I told him I can't sleep, he said make sure you don't smoke it in bed. And that was it. You know, and he's dealing with them. They get burglarized all the time. You know, they get burglarized all the time. We go in there taking reports, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in there. You know, so to say it's not a profitable business, it's a false statement.
One more. All right, you pick the question.
I just have one thing to say. I came totally against this, and I'm not for it at this point. But I want to thank you for your grace in handling it in the way you have. I think.
Well, I guess my last statement would be that the town council's working. They're working for this community, and in the beginning, there were some people thinking that because they allowed us this forum, that they were for the collective, and that absolutely wasn't the case. They just did their job the way they felt it should be done, and so I would applaud them for that.
Well, and I applaud you for taking the pulse of the community and finding out what they want. I mean, I think it's a very straightforward, wonderful approach.
My pleasure.
Well, I know it's been described as a dead issue at this point. Sorry. But just so you know, I did have a meeting with LA County Council. They issued no permits for any clinics anywhere in county areas. The ones that are operating in Fair Blossom, Little Rock, Sierra Highway, they tell me are illegal. They've already closed several of them down, they've reopened. They're going to go after them and file criminal charges. Fair Blossom had one security guard. There was a shooting there. Security guard got shot. And they all have security guards. But people see the opportunity, and that's what it happens. LA City, I think, LAPD commander told me there's something like 1,150 collectives in LA City, and only like 27 of them are permitted. Because it doesn't stop anybody from getting a business license, opening it up, and then changing what's there. So, just so you know, the county does not support it, regional planning does not support it, no one will get a permit in county areas to do it. That being said, hope everybody is enjoying the lovely weather. I know I am. And so, last month, we had a total of 10 incidents, which is like the 4th straight month we've been below 15, so that's good. That resulted in reports. So we've had 2 petty thefts and 4 burglaries and 3 grand theft autos. And 1 vandalism, just to round out a few. It's interesting because the grand theft autos, most of them that we had took place, the contractor PAR was wrapping up operations. So we got into their yard and stole several vehicles that were going to, they were being retired, going to auction. Apparently got in there, and because they weren't blocked in, took them. So we're still looking at that.
And I'll have a couple of questions.
No problem.
Usually, Deputy Short opens it up for us to have, putting a little bit of input with them, so. But did any of those include the burglary where the suspect was caught and held at gunpoint by the owner of the house, bootlegger?
As a matter of fact, that was one of them, yes.
I'd like to let you know that I live next door to him, just on the backside of Mary Hill. And yesterday, my neighbor asked me, who were the two guys that were in your garage the other day digging around making the dogs go crazy on Wednesday afternoon? And I says, I don't know, I was not home and nobody's supposed to be digging around my garage. When I got home, the door was open, and being 50 years old and running all the time, I thought I left it open. So, just to let you know, there's still somebody else tracking through the woods over on Mary Hill bootlegger.
I have an idea who some of those individuals are.
Okay.
So we're looking at those. I know we're still following up with some other leads we have, and following up with the incident that was at Thousand Trails, that Deputy Reader over here handled that, the guy with the gun. I know they're still looking at that too, so. If, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, put you on the spot? No? Okay. If he tells me anything, I'll tell you.
We haven't heard anything since, so I don't think that was about the problem.
Yeah, I was up there with our detectives at least 3 or 4 times, walking that entire riverbed from basically Country Way all the way to Bootlegger, looking for evidence. So we're still working on it.
Okay, and then with the mail theft, everyone here, I was getting my mail stolen, and just so happened they grabbed a credit card out of the mailbox, which I got a call. That night my mailbox was open. I got a call 3 hours later that the person had used it at a 7-Eleven. Went to 7-Eleven. They had video camera of his car, but even a license plate on the front. They had video camera of a photo of him. We made a report, turned it all in, and then I called my credit card company 3 days later, and he had gone to a gas station and tried to use the card. It was declined, but the gas station happened to be working in the area. I went there 2 days later. His cameras on the front and back, so maybe they didn't catch that guy. In the meantime, I made a new mailbox that weighs 300 pounds. It was concreted in it. To shoot it with a 50 caliber. So I've got my mail every day since.
And that's good. Well, I said I've talked to our postmaster, David Gill, who encourages people who have rural boxes to get a post office box either at the post office or up at the stationery store. So your mail's delivered there, not to your rural box. Because unfortunately, if you're along Soledad Canyon and areas along Sierra, it doesn't take long for somebody to drive up, reach out of the window into your mailbox, and it's gone. And he has everybody's mail that's there, and we see it all the time. Also, too, the post office told me now, if you give the address to FedEx and UPS, they will allow them to deliver to the post office in town. And they have a shelf for UPS, FedEx deliveries. You can pick them up there instead of leaving them on your gate. All you have to do is fill out a form that says, I request for this, and that will become your new home location to receive packages. Because especially at Christmas time, we had people that were getting stuff from FedEx. They didn't fit in the box, so they put it down next to the box. It's gone when you get home. And the tracking says delivered. So, and it's hard, especially if you have gates, to get the signature, and after the 3rd delivery, you have to end up going to someplace in a far-off land to get your package. So that's an alternative I got from David Gill. All right, anybody have any questions? Everybody's happy? All your weeds are blooming, and it's good? Okay. All right, that's all I've got tonight.
Life is good.
Life is good. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Tricia from Southern California Edison, and I'm here to give you an update on the TRTP project. Before I get to that, I just want to let you know that the street lights were changed out in Crown Valley to the Bike for Life. So that happened this afternoon. It's completed, and segment 6 hydro seeding has been completed. The planting will continue in September when the nesting season is over. Segment 11 hydro seeding and maintenance on structure 8 and 16, grading between structures 5 and 11. We're putting a factor in at structure 9, and we're pulling wire into the substation from structure 0, which is right outside the substation. So most of the wiring is complete, and we're starting to make connections on both ends at Vince's substation and Gould substation. And our grant window is open from March 1st to 31st, so if you'd like to check out our website, you're welcome to. Focuses on environmental, education, safety, preparedness. So if your organization falls in that criteria, you might want to check it out and try to fill out one grant. And it's all online. If you have any questions, you're welcome to give me a call.
I think that we need to start a dialogue, and we haven't talked about this at the town council and agreed to do this yet, but I do want to have a discussion. We have talked about it in council. The lights that you've got on the segment 11 and segment 6 that are on tri-tip, but they're only on private lands, they are not meeting the low impact determination that the EIR said they were going to make. In other words, the impact and mitigation measures are not working. So we need to find something that will work. So I don't know how you want to handle this. The first step in the administrative process is for us to talk to Edison. When that doesn't work, or if it won't work, then we'll go talk to the PUC, and we'll do everything we can, obviously, to avoid complaint proceedings. But that is something that we really need to have a discussion on. And I don't, you guys all know what I'm talking about, right?
I'm not familiar with that project. So.
Yeah, a lot of the red lights, there's two types of lights. One's on top that is not really bothersome. And then the ones in the middle are very bright, and they go into windows, and they're down in the valleys instead of up on the ridge lines. So the mitigation measures, which we suggested that they needed to be shielded in the EIR, and that was rejected because it was said that they wouldn't be a problem. Well, they are. So I don't know if you and Mr. Forrest want to get together with us, or if we, maybe we can put it on the agenda to have that discussion, and then. Right? Is anyone here bothered by those red lights?
It's horrible, thank you very much.
So
What we'd like to do, because this is all FAA directed, the lights that are on the tower, and as Jackie's mentioning, there's one at the top and then two at about the middle. And if you guys would like to put together kind of a case study of locations and your recommendations, it would be helpful to push that forward. The FAA analyzes each individual pole. So when they're looking over the specs, they're not looking at it in locations. I mean, they do look at the locations, but they may be right next to another one, or maybe next to an existing structure. So it would be really good if you guys want to go ahead and put something together, because that way they can see the overall picture.
Well, I can do that, but I want to be clear. The FAA, there was a lot of discussion on the FAA. I spent a lot of time going through it. And these lights are not per normal FAA requirements, because they're not where they need to be. They're only down in the valleys on private lands, and they're not on the ridgeline towers in the forest. So, let's leave FAA aside for the time being. My concern is I don't want to spend a lot of time putting this program together that you're suggesting, because it takes a lot of time, and then not have a dialogue with Edison. I'd like to have the dialogue first to come up with something we can put together, and then from that plan, go forward, and see if we can work out something. Because it does not work if we bring something to Edison. It just doesn't, a big plan to fix. So I would prefer to have, in my own input, is to have a discussion with Edison first on the course of action that can be taken. Because it might actually be a driving trip, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think it's worthwhile discussing, and we understand what you're talking about, because we look at the direction sometimes and we're right next to another tower. And so we understand what you're saying, and we can go ahead and discuss a meeting or a conference call or whatever you like. If you want to go ahead
I think it
and.
would help, not only just to identify the towers, but to have the homeowners identified in that area also. So maybe.
So I think an agenda
compile these names and addresses, it would
Right.
be just, I mean, there's power in numbers for this.
And if people are affected by it, it would be good if they could come to the meeting when it's agendized.
Absolutely.
To sort of, because I don't live there, so
Well,
I'm not bothered.
a little bit of heads up, we would know who we also should contact directly to make sure that.
So Jackie, what you're recommending is that they put on a future agenda and publicize so that people can come and attend and bring their concerns here.
And it's scheduled at works with Edison.
Right, so we'll have all the parties in the room here.
And maybe Mr. Forrest,
Yeah,
or
we
whoever.
can go ahead and get the subject matter expert. You know, the idea for this FAA lights, of course, is to protect your homes underneath. The pilots can see, look down. And, you know, this is a major corridor for air traffic. So, you know, that's the other thing that the FAA is very concerned about. But we want to make sure that we
That's
hear you
not
out.
true. As a pilot, everybody, crossing the freeway maybe, but, you know, segment 11 going across, that's very clearly nobody is flying up Aliso Canyon is going to need those lights. If you're flying and you're lost and it's dark and you're in the clouds, the lights aren't going to do anything for you.
Well, it's
If
also
you're lost
clear-
and it's dark and you're below 200 feet, the lights aren't going to do anything for you. Those lights make no sense at all.
And it's also clear that they aren't where they need to be on the ridgeline anyway,
Yes,
because
I
that's.
mean, there's a tower up on the top of Peach Hill without a light on it. Why? Because it's U.S. Forest Department.
But yeah, the problem
I
is
mean,
that,
that's obvious.
the problem is that when this went through on supplemental EIR, you know, I fought very hard on that, but it was just ignored. So, and it's, Patricia can't address it, I don't think.
Yeah.
EIR also says that wasn't that recommendations by Edison to the FAA? That's certainly the way it
It
reads
was,
when you read it.
yeah, it's very suspect, I agree. And so,
EIR, it's like Edison recommended to put these up there.
right, and the proper course of action is to notify the PUC, and there's a time associated with that the mitigation measure isn't working. CEQA gives us a time frame. We need to move quickly on that. So as soon as you guys can put that together, these are also the decisions we've asked for.
Also, I just want to let you know that even though this may not be a major light corridor within the Aliso Canyon, there are movie airplanes that fly through here. We have them almost, you know, clip the lines. And so I just want you to know there are some aircraft that do come through the canyon. And, you know, we're looking out for the safety, of course. And these are FAA recommendations, and we follow the guidelines. But we'll go ahead and investigate a little bit further, and your feedback as well.
So Patricia, if I understand correctly, you're gonna find out when you can get your people together, communicate that to perhaps Jackie here, and then talk to Chris and get it on the agenda for enough time for everybody to know what's going on.
And the whole thing has to be, we have about 180 days from about 2 weeks ago to get the whole thing done or file a lawsuit. So that's why time is of the essence, so. Thank you.
It needs to be underground, and it needs to avoid water tables, mitigate, you know, any damage to any property owner and all that. But I don't believe we've ever taken a formal written position, a documented position in the minutes, and I think we need to do that.
I agree, and I think we should put it into a letter format that we can also send out to high-speed rail authority and also other communities to show them our position. So with that said, we've got two different things. You're on the high-speed rail coalition now, which you can write the letter. We also have a correspondence secretary.
But two separate entities, what people refer to as a coalition, small c, will be writing a letter in opposition to the high-speed rail. But as a separate entity, the town council needs to do the same.
Well, that's correct. So I would say that if you want to work with Jackie, Jackie can put the letter together, which she's very good at putting letters together, and then we can review it at the next meeting.
The town council letter.
The town council letter. But if you're privy to information through the coalition, that would actually work, you know, as far as being informative more with the letter with Jackie. That's why I think you two should work together on that.
I have no problem with that, but I think we need to get a letter out post haste, because high-speed rail has assembled a working group of people that they want to meet with later this week.
That is
and
correct.
it would be desirable to have it by then. I'm a simple kind of guy. To me, you know,
I think that would be fine, and then also a little more information is that they will be coming out soon. They've drawn a line in the sand for the east corridor. I don't know if it's up on the website yet.
No.
They're working on getting that up there.
They're working on getting it up
We
there.
can put it up on our website. I think we should.
I think if we're up and running, I can send you that. I was emailed it less than a week ago.
Right.
But I do want to point out something, because I think more than just agreeing to send a letter, I think we need to vote tonight on an actual position.
Yes.
And then that's what's going to be reflected in the letter.
Should be a position statement.
Yes, but I also want to point out that the community has, since, for years now, but very loudly on July 30th, said, keep it the heck out of Acton. They've rejected that. So I think we need to continue saying that. We also need to say, if it has to go through Acton, because I can look at a map and I can see that there's only one real thing that's between Palmdale and Burbank, and that's Acton. Above the forest,
Well, then in a couple of short statements, we would have to say that we would like it out of Acton, but if it has to go through Acton, we do not have a preferred route. What we do prefer is it takes the least intrusive and an impact route for all of Acton. You can't throw one person's house under the bus to save another's. And most of us on the council up here all have houses impacted on different routes. So, but we have to say that, if it can impact 50 houses instead of 400, then that's the route it should take. And if it is going to take a route and impact any houses, put it as deep underground as you can get it.
And let me suggest why I think that's a really good idea. I have looked at the draft map they just came out with, and it is so artificially contrived that they have to run right underground in the forest boundary, literally, because of the way the topography works out. So it's maximum above ground on private lands, on your house, and it's 100% underground under the forest. And so if they shoved it a little bit further south and kept it underground, it wouldn't be near anybody's homes and near anybody's wells. And so clearly they have the technical capacity to make it underground where they want it to be underground. And as I've explained to some people, there are elements of this map which we could exploit if we ever have to in any sort of litigation, because it's so heavily contrived. So I think, weaving something of that, not the litigation part obviously, but the design elements into the law would be useful too.
Well, that's one of the things that we have to get to, because of where they're going, and it's okay.
And everywhere else.
Yeah, but when we first looked at it, it wasn't bad. But now, when they're talking about going through, they just cost me a lot of money.
Well, I think we should demand underground. There's two main corridors, right? There's the east corridor, which is also the south corridor, and then there's the west corridor to Santa Clarita. Okay, I think we should demand underground from both corridors.
I think 100%.
Because it's certainly possible.
I think we should say there's no reason at all that it should pop up anywhere in Acton.
Absolutely, Acton or underground, period.
Let them come up with technical reasons and technical solutions to make that happen.
I agree, but we need to also explain to them that we see that they're capable of engineering this, so they're capable of engineering what we want.
If they're able to engineer coming through Tehachapi, they sure ought to be able to come here. But this is what's interesting. These people are way out of bounds.
Right. And the East Corridor map was put together, as I understand it, with the Forest Service input. And that is
So they had
the
several
first one,
conversations, yeah.
the first one they've actually put out. So,
It's also no accident that we got monumentized right in a pattern that would push it through Acton.
absolutely.
So, the monument,
The problem with all of it, with this whole thing, it doesn't matter where it goes. The problem that we're gonna have is that that's all gonna be cement underneath the ground if you have it underground. All that's gonna be underground, and that's gonna divert water in different areas. We got a problem. Not just me, but a lot of other people that got wells.
Any way you look at it, it's wrong.
If you look back on other years where they made this kind of stuff, or roads and stuff where they made tunnels, reroute that water underneath the ground. This is a big problem for me.
Well, the time being of the essence of the meeting on Saturday, who wants to take the lead with the letter?
I don't mind writing it, but I think we need to vote on the position here,
Yeah.
so.
I,
I agree with you. I don't mind writing, I'll just writing.
well, I thought I stated a position.
So we have to vote on it.
We have to,
Okay.
somebody has to make a motion. I make a motion that we adopt that position that Chris stated.
And I second it.
Can we get the position stated one more time?
Okay, that we do not want the train in Acton, keep the train out of Acton. If you have to have, the train has to go through some portion of Acton. It needs to be in the least impactful way for community residents.
Is that strong enough?
Underground
I mean,
and away from wells.
Okay. Well, least impactful, they're gonna come up with all kinds of things.
Well,
They're gonna say are less impactful.
I know, I was
than the other.
paraphrasing what Chris said, but maybe I didn't say it right. So
I
that's why I think.
I demand that the train is put underground below the levels of wells and aquifers.
Okay, I think that's.
Is that, I mean, can we go for
You're talking big deep.
Good.
You're
You know, it's not a climb out of Palmdale that
You're
is.
talking,
Rick,
you're
what did you
talking
say?
at least 300 feet.
That's not a problem.
That's not a problem, because that's where Palmdale is.
It comes out of Lake Palmdale at 2840.
Yeah, I know what
And
that
it's
is.
gotta go down
I
800
know what that
feet.
is as well.
Yeah, it's gotta go down 800 feet.
So it's
There's no
gotta be
reason it
dropped.
needs to come up through Acton.
So if we, once the letter is formatted, it will more clarify in writing what the position is, and everybody will agree to that, then that will be our position statement, and just cleaning up the language a little bit.
But generally, the statement has to be, keep it out of Acton. If you have to go anywhere in Acton, keep it underground, away from wells, and non-impact residents.
Absolutely.
A single resident.
Any resident.
Anyway, or any private landowner, for that matter. Because
Yeah.
we know there's unoccupied
Yeah,
land.
that's true, there's private landowners